up. I've got to apologise. The posting today is a little bit late because we had... Pete, what did we have?
Catastrophic malfunction.
We'll stop at malfunction. It was a cascading malfunction. Because we normally record on a Tuesday afternoon for the Wednesday show. This is Wednesday morning. Oh, look, $100 million is up for grabs tomorrow night. Powerball. Pete, you got a ticket?
I'm buying it today.
Buying it today. Do you just take your pick, you know, a lucky dip, or do you have favourite numbers?
No, I've got my numbers, yeah.
All right. Okay. No, I just get a quick pick or an easy pick or something. But $100 million. Anyway, that's tomorrow night. Peter Clayton's behind the camera. I'm Jeremy Cordeaux. Welcome to the Garage and the Court of Public Opinion. A surge in COVID cases around Australia, if you haven't caught up with that, 30% up on this time last year. Be careful. That sounds serious. Well, the whole thing, of course, is serious. Maybe not quite as serious as we thought back in the COVID period. But anyway, there we go. Now, speaking of overreaction, the federal budget handed down last night. In brief, I don't know what I'd say. I'm not an economist. I'm not even an accountant. But it seemed to me the guy's juggling most of the already leaked measures contained in the budget tell me that it was and is an election budget. And it's not impossible that they might decide to go for an early, depending on the reaction, the public reaction to this budget, they may decide to go to an early election if they think they're on a winner. Better to do that than take the risk, and there are inherent risks in this budget. No attempt, of course, to live within their means. There never is. You know, the old saying about you cut the coat according to the cloth. That'll never occur to them. Spend, 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 spend. It's all wrong. It's all, in fact, back to front. Where is the restraint? The living within the means. The waste is there for everybody to see, the NDIS. Guess what? They're going to spend $40 million to crack down on NDIS fraud. Well, that in itself, I think, is a fraud. Lordy, lordy, lordy. It's blown out 14.3 billion, but they're promising, funnily enough, savings of 14.3 billion. Interesting. Think of all the other areas of waste. The Aboriginal budget, and I'm sure none of it ever gets to Aboriginals. The Yes referendum, that was 450 million. Consultants and advertising and travel. These are some of the obvious places to cut, for God's sake. Anyway, a lot more to say on Friday at the dining room table. We're still putting that together, by the way. We'll have had time to read the small print, and believe me, when it comes to a budget document, you need to read the small print. There'll be a $9.3 billion surplus and new expenditure of $9.5 billion. Seems like you're jumping up and down in the same spot, doesn't it? The government clearly expects inflation to be under control by the end of the year. That's not what everybody expects. Economically, they're kind of walking a tightrope, knowing that there's less than a year if things go to plan, or to the election cycle, less than a year to the next election. But your thoughts on Friday around the dining room table. 0491 65 68 60. We welcome your calls. We only have one phone. In other words, we don't have a switchboard, so I can't take calls and stack them and do it in an orderly fashion. It's a little bit, when you ring, I take the call. But when you ring and I answer the phone, you'll hear the program coming down the line. Don't hang up, I'll get there. And remember this, when you hear the Prime Minister say, my government has given the workers of Australia $1 billion worth of tax cuts. Gee, that sounds good. That sounds terrific. Until you divide that $1 billion by 20.5 million taxpayers, one way or the other, not all PAYE. But when you divide those figures, the billion by 20.5, you realise that is $48.78 a year. Now, don't you spend that all at once. Whoa. More to say later, but 4 more suspected illegal immigrants have just arrived. That's 3 boats in the last 5 days. What else is around? Nitrous oxide. Pete, do you know what nitrous oxide is?
Laughing gas?
Laughing gas, yeah. Laughing gas. It's revealed as a terribly dangerous way to get a high. Are people so desperate to get high that they will risk their lives? It seems so. Take the dog for a walk. Cuddle a cat. See the sunrise. Have a glass of wine. Say your prayers. Make love. But laughing gas? Really? Laughing gas? You know, it's a funny thing, isn't it? You say to kids, particularly kids, don't do that. They'll kill themselves till they try, and then probably kill themselves trying. Here in South Australia, there is an inquiry into whether or not kids under 14 should be banned from social media. Now, we'll talk about that on Friday, because that's a hot topic. What do you think? I don't know. As I just said, you ban something, you make it irresistible. But what happened to parenting? Put that bloody thing away. But of course they are addicted. You know, you see everywhere young people with their heads stuck in front of the screen, regardless of how small that screen is. That's a good one to talk about. I don't know that you can ban it. I frankly don't. I think it's a piece of virtue signalling by the state government. See who else jumps on the bandwagon. And because of Russian aggression, I see that Germany is looking to introduce conscription. Conscription for all 18-year-olds, both men and women. Yeah, you can understand Germany, with history in mind, worrying extensively about what's going on in Ukraine with the Russians. I don't find myself in agreement with this Labor government very often, as you might have noticed, but the live sheep export industry will cease on the 1st of May 2028. Now that's subject, of course, to the legislation getting through. But thank you. Thank you. I think it is fair to say that this industry, the live sheep export business, while obviously valuable to the farmers and the country, is not sustainable on the grounds of common decency. Here is an export industry which is easy to value add right here in Australia. Just tell me why your customers insist on live animals. Is that because of the brutal ritualistic killing that the animals are subjected to? Cruel at every stage, this business. The loading, the transport, the delivery, the killing. The whole thing is evil, if you ask me. I've heard of blood money, but I'm only sad that the industry will continue till 2028, and there's a considerable amount of money put aside in the budget to help industry, what is the word, transition. Someone I'm trying to get for the show on Friday is a bloke called Dr. James Bishop from the CSIRO. And he talks animal. Well, in actual fact, he doesn't, but he has worked out a... Pete, what's the thing called? An algorithm?
Yes, I guess.
So he can feed a cow mooing or a sheep baaing into this, and the machine will tell it. Well, this is what he says. Will tell him what the animal is saying.
I'd like to see that.
Yes. Well, he says that no, moo does not mean moo. They are actually conversing. There is meaning in all of this. Now, we pride ourselves on our humanity, don't we? Human beings. Sheep and cattle would not behave as we do, I'm sure. They are a lot more moral. And on Friday, we may find one who's prepared to tell you in his own words. On Friday, we'll get into that. I hope I can get him, because that sounds to me to be fascinating. Because if we go through life arrogantly, thinking that dogs are barking, and cats are meowing, and it doesn't mean anything, and birds are cheeping, of course it means something. They're talking to each other. What do you imagine they are trying to say? To or about us?
Well, I know Katie asks for food.
Oh, yes. Well,
and walks.
Yes, well, she just has to look, and you understand. You interpret it well. But I take it, Pete, you would be happy about the end of the live sheep business?
Very, very happy. As you said, I'm sad that it's 4 years down the track.
Yeah.
That's a lot of suffering in the meantime.
Yeah.
But yes, it's good news.
Yes. A fantastic light show in our skies. I don't know if you've seen it. People have driven hundreds and hundreds of kilometres to get a better look. A plasma sunstorm, positively charged particles, an eruption on the sun, sending an amazing swirl of colour around the skies at 2 million miles an hour. But don't panic, it's all natural and it's a beautiful spectacle. And yes, like everything, it does affect our climate. No problem, because we have a very effective, probably God-given protective shield that protects us from all of that. Not so much the satellites, though. I think we'll maybe have lost a few of those shoebook size satellites that are whizzing around there. 7,000 of them or something. Yeah. Freedom of Information documents reveal some pretty shocking figures relating to the election of the South Australian Voice to State Parliament. I don't know if you've caught up with this, but the documents reveal that staff working on the election of these people outnumbered the number of votes cast. Low voter turnout, I'm quoting here, not exactly, but low voter turnout for the state voice to Parliament led to multiple occasions when there were more staff working in the booths than the number of people casting votes per day. Now, this Labor government here in South Australia would have us believe that they were driven to install, at our expense of course, this state voice because the Aboriginals demanded it. What rubbish! And the Premier, Peter Malinauskas, says of the poor turnout, they'll get the hang of it. They'll get the hang of it. I thought they already had the hang of it. That's quite disgraceful, Premier, really. Love to know whose idea it was to do that and why, because it certainly wasn't driven by the Aboriginals. You remember last week talking about strange hypocrisy and perhaps even lies? Last week we mentioned that the Grattan Institute sounded a warning to the government that it would, if it didn't change its pursuit of renewables, we would be caught eventually without power. We'd just get flat-footed. The other day, the federal government announced gas will be an important part of our energy future. We'll need it for heating and cooking and generating electricity. Very sensible, Prime Minister. Yet in Victoria, the government of a similar stripe to the federal guys still insists that gas will be completely phased out. Won't allow people to put a gas appliance in a house that's being built. Now, these people obviously don't talk to each other. They wouldn't make sense even if they did, probably. And we've got the ANZ Bank and other lending institutions saying that they won't fund any future gas or oil projects. Now, these are probably the same people who campaigned and donated money for The Voice. Totally wrong and totally out of touch, ladies and gentlemen. In any case, all this disruption and expense is nonsense, because Australia's contribution to global emissions is nothing, 1.3%, nothing. So what is the problem or the crisis that we're trying to fix in the first place? It's like The Voice. It's all in their head. Since the federal government was elected, well, it's sort of 2 and a bit years ago, there have been 17, not highly publicised, you understand, but 17 boats bringing some 300 illegal immigrants to our shores. 33 asylum seekers arrived in Western Australia last Thursday morning, as I said at the beginning of this posting and podcast. 33 asylum seekers just last Thursday. Briefly sent to Christmas Island, I understand, and then moved on to where, I don't know, possibly Nauru. The West Australian coast is a very difficult but not impossible piece of coastline to patrol, and it's in our interests to devote more attention to it. 4 more arrivals on Monday. 3 boats in 5 days. Now, perception is reality. Clearly, this government is perceived as being soft on asylum seekers and border control. And you know what? In their hearts, they are. The Immigration Minister, Andrew Giles, is on record as saying, "The only reason I am in Parliament is to advocate for refugees." And this is the man you put in charge of immigration? And this is interesting if I've got time. The federal Labor government has spent $100,000 on headhunters. You know what headhunters do? You know, corporate headhunters. You tell them who you're looking for, pay them a lot of money, and they go out and find him or her. $100,000 we've shelled out to go out and find replacement board members for the Reserve Bank Board. This is even before legislation to allow this has been passed, let alone presented. So what are they planning, I wonder? A less independent board, perhaps? Or is it back to the Paul Keating days, when he used to hand out those board positions on the Reserve Bank like knighthoods? And there were some pretty strange people there. This is back, of course, when we suffered record inflation, record interest rates, and, of course, the recession we had to have. Would we really go back to this totally discredited system of political patronage and jobs for the boys? And one more that you may not have noticed quickly. PricewaterhouseCoopers, who face one of these consulting companies, who face criminal charges for allegedly giving the taxation department advice and then briefing clients on how to avoid the measures. Now, do I hear you say conflict of interest? Well, PwC sold that consulting division for $1 because they kind of realised what it was worth. Probably lucky to get $1. Well, guess what? PricewaterhouseCoopers Indigenous has just won a $700,000 deal to do more work for the government. I know these people in Canberra are wedded to consultants, but quite honestly, do you think this is a good look, or that no one would notice? And that sadly one of those people who did might be me, and I got a big mouth. What the hell's going on? What the hell? Now, what we've decided to do, and it's, I guess we could say by popular demand, you know, we're having the one show on the Wednesday and the live streaming show from the dining room table, jeremycordo.com, on Friday. Last week it was too long, wasn't it, Pete? You agree with that?
Well, I think...
It was, don't gild the lily, it was too long. Nobody's going to sit there for an hour, so we'll keep it to half an hour, but the compromise is we'll put 2 in, say, Tuesday and Wednesday, and the live streaming show on Friday. So there'll be 2 half-hour podcasts or postings, Tuesday and Wednesday starting next week, and we'll get on with it. We will get on with it, ladies and gentlemen. Happy birthday if you're having a birthday or a wedding anniversary. Ah, dear, oh dear, I didn't bring my glasses down. That's one thing I didn't do. It's the 15th of May, 1928, and Mickey Mouse makes his first ever appearance. It was in a silent film. It was called Plain Crazy. Yeah, a lot of things in this world are plain crazy. Zara Phillips, the English daughter of Princess Anne, born in London in 1981. 1944, Dwight D. Eisenhower, Bernard Montgomery, Winston Churchill and King George discussed the plans for D-Day 1 year on. D-Day 1945. The final skirmish in Europe is fought near Slovenia, and the year was 1945. But the plans for D-Day began being made on this day 1 year earlier. Robert Menzies, the 12th Prime Minister of Australia, the United Australia Party, he was doing that from 39 to 41, and then the Liberals from 49 to 66. Longest serving Prime Minister. Dies of a heart attack on this day in 1983. No, I'm sorry, he was 83, but the year was 78 when he died. James Mason, the British actor, he was in Lolita, North by Northwest, Bloodline, The Boys from Brazil. He was born in Yorkshire. He died in 1984, but born 1909. Great actor, James Mason. James Puckle, a London lawyer, patents the world's first machine gun in 1718. Golly, the only one I've ever heard of was the guy called Gatling, after whom the Gatling gun was named. So apparently there was one way before that. James Puckle. Las Vegas was founded in Nevada in 1905. I think the mob did that, didn't they? Or did they sort of build it up? I can't remember the mythology. June Carter Cash, American Grammy Award-winning country singer, 2003. She dies of complications after heart surgery at the age of 73. Ellen Church becomes the first female airline stewardess aboard a United Airlines flight from San Francisco to Cheyenne on this day in 1930. I wonder what she was like. God, there was a time when air hostesses, they weren't attendants, they were hostesses. They were some of the most glamorous women in the world. What did the Reg Ansett memorably say when he saw the Standard slipping?
I don't know. Tell me.
He was a very frank man. Sir Reginald Ansett, head of Ansett Airlines, he said, these days they're a bunch of old boilers. Don't tell anyone I said that. I didn't say that. Martha Stewart, 2023, appears in Sports Illustrated. She was 81 years old, and she appeared as part of the swimsuit issue, wearing a swimsuit. Good for her. Anyway, we will leave it there. Thank you very much for viewing the Court of Public Opinion, ladies and gentlemen. And again, I'm sorry for the late posting, but we had some technical problems last night. Thank you very much. Look forward to your company on Friday, jeremycordo.com, around the dining room table, where you can give us a call and have your say about what you will. Believe in yourself, and thank you for viewing the Court of Public Opinion.